Oh, so it's failed to detect my speaker. Can you hear me? Yes, great. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining me and my expert panelist who will help us buy safely and easily in Spain. We're waiting for a couple of panelists who have got some tech issues. One joined us, but we couldn't see her, so she's just going to rejoin. But we will continue with our fantastic estate agent in the meantime, Shirin Sharifi from the Spanish estate agent, who is somewhere lovely on the Costa del Sol, I believe.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. My name is Christopher Knight. I'm senior editor at Yoh Home and also Spain Property Guides. We've been helping people. I've been helping people for 20 years to move to Spain. Former editor of one of the Place in the Sun magazines, and I've been with Yoh Home for the last 7 years. So it's great to have you all here. And we're going to help you buy easily and safely in Spain. So let me, while we wait for other people to join us, let me, perhaps you'd like to introduce yourself, Shirin, and just tell us a bit about yourself and the Spanish estate agent.
Thank you, Chris. I'm so happy that it's not me that's the problem for a change. Yes, my name is Shirin Sharifi. I'm the sales director at the Spanish estate agent. Can you hear me? I'll carry on. Yeah, I'm the sales director for the Spanish estate agent here on the Costa del Sol. I'm calling you from Benahavis, which is just between Marbella and Estepona. We have an office, our first office in Estepona town centre, and we also have a new office that we've opened in San Pedro de Alcántara, and we hope to open many more offices along the coast. I've been working in real estate here for over 24 years, and hopefully, you know, put that experience to good use on your behalf. We cover the whole coast from Malaga right the way to Gibraltar and inland properties as well. Yeah, I have a fantastic team, all of them very, very experienced, all of them with at least 10 years experience in the business. And yeah, we basically act also as a property finder. So you can look on any website, you can look on any portal, and if any property catches your eye, you can send me the link to that property and I will still be able to offer you that property. So we act as I say, we have access to every single property that there is on the coast. And it's a really important thing that I want to get across to the clients, because people say to me a lot of the time, they are tired of having to explain themselves to many different agents. They're tired of agents not listening to them. We pride ourselves on being passionate about what we do, and you know, we really listen to the clients and go out there trying to find the property, if of course the budget allows that. And it just means that you can tell me what you're looking for, give me, you know, all your likes, dislikes, all that kind of thing, and I'll be able to put you in the right area. I'll be able to access a database which has every single property that's for sale on the coast, and we can offer you that property. And you can deal with just one agent, and me and myself, I'm recommended by the overseas property guides and so on. So you know you're in safe hands. But yeah, that's us.
Okay, thank you. And we've also been joined by Danny Cook, who is from Smart Currency Exchange, who work from Spain to Cyprus, as we've just established, and working all across the world, I believe. So tell us a little about yourself and the Smart Currency Exchange, Danny.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Craig. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, slightly, some issues with the Zoom link there, which was the reason for my delay. So apologies. I was on the Cyprus webinar before, so I didn't have time to change the background. But yeah, I'm here representing Smart Currency Exchange. So we've been around since 2004. I've worked here for around 4 years now as an account manager on the trading desk. Essentially, what we aim to do is to manage the currency risk that will be exposed to when sending funds over to Cyprus for your property purchase. So as I say, we've worked here for around 4 years now. I help my clients set a plan sort of early on in the journey to set their budgets and then execute that plan to help them get their funds over to Spain for the property purchase. We might also end up helping you after the property purchase with any sort of regular payments for living costs, mortgages, anything like that as well. So yeah, that's what we're here to help with, really.
Excellent, thank you. Now we can't actually see Emma. We've seen her lots of times before, though, on webinars. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Emma, and JLCA and Associate Lawyers.
Okay, thanks, Chris. My apologies, I don't know why I've not got an option for the camera, but JLCA Lawyers, we're a Spanish legal firm. We've been operating for over 20 years. We are specifically Spanish lawyers, but we have offices in the UK, in the US as well. So we offer services specializing obviously with purchase of property in Spain, inheritances, etc., but also with residency. So we're able to help people talk about the whole process of what they're doing, why they want to buy, where they want to buy, and what the reasons are for doing that.
Excellent. Right, thank you. Now, all our panelists have booths at the show, so do please go along and speak to them in person, online in person after the presentation. We're here until 4 o'clock. But for the moment, if you've got any questions, do please throw them into the Q&A chat, and I will endeavour to get as many answers as possible. We've got an hour, so plenty of time to get to hear all about the services and to get your questions answered too. So what we're going to do is we're going to sort of take you through a typical buying process, and unlikely though it may seem, because some people do this last, wrongly, you should probably speak to a currency expert very early in the process. So Danny, firstly, just tell me about tell us about the pound to euro exchange rate at the moment. It wasn't looking too good when I looked on Friday afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. It's at 114 at the moment, so it has been on the slide, but ultimately, a lot of things impacting it all the time. Everything that's going on in the world really affects where the currency rates are moving. So you've got direct and indirect economic and political factors affecting this. Market sentiment also plays a huge role on where the exchange rate's actually going. So just over the last 18 months, for an example, we've had a lot of political change in the UK. Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, Rishi Sunak, Jeremy Hunt, Kwesi Kwarteng, to name a few. They've all had their own policies that have impacted the markets. Ongoing cost of living crisis, of course, soaring inflation in the UK and the subsequent soaring interest rates have been impacting the markets. You've got the Ukraine war going on, of course, Gaza conflict, the list goes on and on, really. Just an example, last year, 2022, we saw 14% difference between the highest and lowest rates. So that really can pose some challenges for your budget when we're seeing this much, volatility and changes in the currency markets.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm sure most of us have been around long enough to remember when it was 110. So 114.5, not so bad in historic terms. Okay, so the first thing I want to do when looking at a property in Spain is I need to set a budget. So I won't get the rate that I hear on the news, will I? Quite.
That's correct. Yeah, the exchange rates you see in the news or newspaper or if you just Google currency rates are the rates that large institutional banks making multi-billion-dollar trades transact at. So it's often known in the industry as the interbank rate of exchange. Sometimes also called the mid-market rate. The exchange rates you and I receive are different. The rate you and I would receive as a retail consumer is going to be slightly lower than that rate you see online, or as I say, in the paper or wherever you're seeing it. There will be a slight sort of differential in the exchange rate that you'll be offered as an individual. Yeah. But
there again, it's nothing like the horror story that we see from the banks or from when we go and get our money at the airport.
Correct. Yeah. So that's the reason a lot of people do come to a currency broker such as ourselves for their property transaction, is to obtain a better exchange rate than what you'd get through a bank, which, as you say, Chris, can be very very low indeed. So we aim to get you a rate that's going to be closer to that interbank level.
Yeah, I know that some people still have loyalty to their high street bank, but I would understand why, since they since they closed all their high street branches. Tell me about the rough process for getting a property in Spain. How would we, what happens? I'm not taking a suitcase of cash, obviously.
No, absolutely no. You wouldn't be doing that. I would say the typical process is something like, of course, well, researching your desired location firstly, finding your desired property, and then you go on a viewing trip to obviously see that property. You need to negotiate the price, then have your offer accepted, and then of course the process after that can take about 3 to 9 months on the purchase process, depending on the complexity. Longer, of course, if you're buying an off-plan property. I mean, you've got completion, but the whole process can take very long. So it's a very, as I say, 3 to 9 months sometimes between offer acceptance and completion. So each purchase is different, but that's generally what you're looking at, I would say.
Okay, and so during that time, the exchange rate's going to move, and I'm taking a real gamble if I've made an offer in euros on day one, and I'm not completing until day 30, 60, or 90. So I believe there's a forward contract that will help me get some peace of mind there.
Yeah, absolutely. So forward contract is probably one of our most popular options, really, that allows you to lock in the exchange rate. Quite often, people are doing that at the point of offer accepted. Some people might do it beforehand, but yeah, the forward contract is really one of our most popular products that allows you to lock in your exchange rate and remove the risk when it comes to buying a property overseas.
Okay. There is another session with one of your colleagues at 1:15 that I'll be doing, where we're going to go into forward contracts in a lot more detail. But just tell me the basic process is: do I leave a deposit, or how does it work?
Yeah, in terms of booking a forward contract, do you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So with a forward contract, yeah, you're essentially locking in the exchange rate. Generally, you would pay up front within 3 working days 10% of the total sterling cost for the euros. So say if you're buying 300,000 euros, costing you, off the top of my head, £260,000 or something, you pay £26,000 within 3 working days to lock the rate. The balance of the sterling you can pay over any time between that day and whatever value date we set on the contract, which can be up to 2 years in advance. So they're very, very flexible, and you can have them locked in with a time frame that's within your time frames as well for your property purchase. We would generally try to marry up the value date with the date by which you're completing on your property.
Okay. And what happens if the purchase subsequently falls through?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously these things can happen. We do appreciate that. We deal with thousands of property buyers every year, so unfortunately this does happen from time to time. If you just talk to us, we can work with you to extend the contract to meet a new completion date, or there are other options as well. But we try and help our clients in every situation if that does occur.
Okay. And I know you've been around for a long time, and I know you have a very good reputation in the industry, but even so, how do I know that my money is going to be safe with Smart?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and one that I get a lot. But essentially, we're highly regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. I can promise you they're no joke, with their regulations. We've been operating for 20 years next year as well. All our client funds are held in segregated client safeguarded accounts with tier 1 banks. So those funds are actually completely separate from our business capital. So it's a fully ring-fenced and insured account that you send funds to when you transact with us. So the whole process is as safe as possible. And as I say, that the FCA regulation, they basically authorize us and make sure that we're completely by the book with everything we do.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, don't go away, because we will no doubt be coming back to you. But in the meantime, so we've set out our budget. We've spoken to our currency specialist, and we're fine that we know we can get the money there, how that all works. So now we're going to contact our estate agent. Well, hopefully will be Shirin Sharifi from the Spanish estate agent. So I guess the first question is, what's the market like at the moment? Where you are in the Costa del Sol, but also more broadly in Spain?
Yeah, I mean, we are enjoying a really, really busy time at the moment. We've been it's been like this for a couple of years now, and we, we've the availability of good property. As soon as they come on the market, they tend to sell quite quickly. As I say, a good property at a good price. Obviously, we help you negotiate with that, but yeah, the market is super strong at the moment. We have a lot of people buying. The Scandinavian market is very, very strong, but also, interestingly enough, because of the exchange rates and so on, we have a lot of people with dollars buying at the moment. So, and it's quite interesting because they're flying from from Canada or the States, obviously. And when they come, they really expect to find something straight away. They don't want to have to make the trip several times. So, yeah, it's when one market decreases, another one takes over. So yeah, we're very happy at the moment, and that's why we're expanding as well.
Oh, where are you expanding into?
The second office is opened in San Pedro, and
Right.
we're opening again, hopefully for a little bit further towards the airport soon.
Okay, so what's popular in Spain right now? Is it the classic golf villa, or people looking to the communities, or houses, or apartments? What are people buying?
Everything. Everything. No, we're getting a lot more people coming to get residency. So there's different ways of doing that. You can obviously make applications, and Emma will talk about that as well. But obviously we have a golden visa situation where people, if they spend over 500,000, they can automatically apply for a golden visa. But yeah, a lot of people buying properties to live in because they want to move over here. And so obviously, a 2-bedroom apartment of 60 square meters isn't always going to cut it for some people. They're wanting bigger properties. But a lot of people now also, obviously what was built in the more central areas was built a while back. So we're getting 2 markets. One is the market buying older properties in great locations where they can walk everywhere, renovating them to a very modern standard. Or we're getting the people buying off-plan. The off-plan purchase has become pretty popular again because it offers so much investment factor, growth, and also they're getting a modern, fresh, open plan property. Because obviously during the crash we didn't have any construction, so what was being built back in the day, what's being built now are two worlds apart.
Right.
So yeah, we have that desire for fresh, renovated or fresh, newly built properties. The Scandinavian look, very open plan and so on. But we still do have the lovely, quaint, typically Spanish properties as well. So, which I personally love.
Okay. Now, so we're setting our budget, and if I've got, say, I'm buying a £200,000. 200,000 euro property, or 100,000 euro property, how much should I be adding for buying costs?
We have a fantastic buyer's guide that I can send out to everybody. It outlines the whole buying process, and it outlines the buying costs. The buying costs in Andalusia, as opposed to the rest of Spain, are slightly different in that we're very lucky in that we've got much lower buying costs. So a resale property in Andalusia has gone from a staggered percentage where it was 8%, 9%, and 10%. It's now a flat rate of 7%. So that's a huge saving for a lot of people. That's for a resale property. If you're buying a new property, we don't have the transfer tax, but we do have a 10% VAT plus 1.2% stamp duty. So the difference buying old and new is quite a lot, but obviously people look at it and think, with a new property, I've got this modern style, I've got this, modern qualities, soundproofing, energy efficiency, all that's becoming really important to people, plus the 10-year structural guarantee, plus the guarantees on all the equipment within the house. And they, again, looking at the style of property, and people tend to, plus the fact that the value of the property is going to go up so much during construction. So it kind of weighs out, balances out for a lot of people, and they end up buying something new or off plan.
Sure. Okay. Are estate agent fees paid by the seller or by the buyer?
Vendor, the seller.
That's
The
nice.
prices you see are what you pay plus the buying costs. It doesn't include our buying, our fees are not for you to worry about as buyers. It's
Sure.
paid by the vendor. Yeah.
Got it. And yet, I think, I mean, when you buy a property in the UK, you know, the estate agent essentially just sells you the property. I believe you kind of help with a lot more things.
We do a lot more, literally from this stage where people are just finding out information. I love to meet people as early as possible, right through to knowing them for years. I'm still in contact with so many of my clients that they need a builder 2 years down the line, or they need a babysitter, or they need, you know, we do so much for clients. We, you know, the last villa I sold, older property, I went along with 3 different builders to look at the property and give quotes and help with that if they don't speak the language, for example. We deal with lawyers, and we deal with, you know, everything for you. We literally hold your hand throughout the whole process, and it's really important to us. We are, as I said, that's why the experience is so important for me when I take people on. I want them to be passionate about what they do, and I want them to be, you know, our reviews, our Google reviews speak about that so much. So please check them out.
Brilliant. Okay.
Yeah, we do a lot.
So okay, I'm convinced. I'm coming over to look at properties for my first viewing trip. Now I know a lot of people, they think, oh, we'll buy a place in the spring. I'm guessing the winter is quite a good time to view properties as well. So when would you suggest coming out for our viewing trip?
Now.
Right. Sorry,
it's the summer months are, you know, it's very difficult to get into properties because they're rented out, of course, and also the whole of Spain seems to close down in August. It's not so bad now, but yeah, now is a really good time because you're going to see it not at its busiest. You're going to see it maybe if it's raining, if we're unlucky enough to have a day where you're going to see it at its worst. We're very lucky at the moment. We're enjoying 22 to 24 degrees. It's crystal clear at the moment, a beautiful blue sky and sea. So again, you either see it at its worst or you're seeing it at a more quiet time. So it's more realistic about all year round. And we are lucky enough to have that all year round weather. So we don't have the extreme buying season and low buying seasons. We tend to be busy all year round, really. And it's really up to when people can come over. So
if people have got on another tab, they've just opened EasyJet and are booking that trip, should they be coming at a weekend, or is it best to come midweek? And how soon? For what sort of period would you recommend?
On average, people come out for 3 or 4 days, and they've normally purchased a property in that time, believe it or not. We do a lot of homework before you come out. So we do a lot of video. Sometimes we do video viewings. We do video presentations with developers and so on. There's a lot of homework that can be done. I can talk you through the different areas, what they have to offer, and so on. So by the time you come over, you've sent me a load of properties off websites where I've looked into them for you. I've sent you properties. We've got the viewing, and this is the beauty of dealing with one agent. I organize the whole trip for you. I pick you up from your hotel. I've got all the appointments made in good time order. I've looked at if you're looking to use the property for rental, I make sure it's got the right licenses to be able to do that. You know, all the things that I've had to ensure to begin with are all in place. And as I say, we've got it all organized for you. So I would ask, if possible, to come during the week, because in Spain we are lucky enough to have a day of rest on a Sunday. I work 7 days a week, but a lot of the agents are not happy to open up. Plus the fact that we always have to see a lawyer and do power of attorney and things like that. So they definitely don't work at the weekend. So it would have to be a weekday that we do that.
Okay, brilliant. Well, Emma might have something to say about that, but we will come to Emma in a minute. Well, that has actually brought up a question that we've had from Manus. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Manus, I see that properties can be advertised by multiple estate agents. how do you know which estate agent to go with if looking at a property?
It doesn't matter. If you're coming with me, it doesn't affect the price. It doesn't affect anything. I will source the listing agent or the vendor of that property. So you'll be going directly to the agent that's got the property. It's all about finding an agent that you really trust and like working with. And again, this is our selling point, is our experience. But it doesn't matter. We will get you to that direct listing agent or the vendor.
Okay, excellent. Okay, when we found a property, making an offer, is it normal to go under the asking price? Because it's very difficult for us as you know, people from another country to know if we're being offered if a price is really fair. It's not like looking in the next street. So should we be making an offer under the asking price?
Again, this comes down to an agent that you trust and know that they're looking out for you, which we pride ourselves on. But with resale properties, of course, you can make offers. With resale properties, every single scenario is different, and that's my job, to find out the history of that property, why they're selling, who it's selling, what are the circumstances, and try to get the best deal for you in that sense. We are seeing a lot of good properties, well presented, either selling at asking price, and sometimes I have been involved where I've managed to get the property, but it has gone over asking price. That's not the norm, but what I'm saying is it's not a case of, oh, I'll offer 10% under value. We have to be realistic. When we list properties, we try to be as realistic as possible with the price as well. So, you know, resale properties have to compete with the off plan, with the beautiful images and so on. So they have to be competitive in price as well. With the new developments, there is no negotiation. The developers are selling so fast, they just don't take any offers. It is what it is, and you enter into a payment schedule with them. So sometimes we can negotiate the payment schedule a little bit. Price is as is. Yeah.
Great. Okay. If I find something I like, firstly, what do I need to bring on my viewing trip? What paperwork? And secondly, what might I be asked to sign if I find something that I really like?
Can I just add something onto the last bit? I'm Iranian, so I love to barter. So I will be trying to get the best price for you. But what do you need to bring with you? You need to bring a passport, and that's pretty much your passport and a credit card or a transfer capability of paying a deposit. We do take a reservation deposit here. Now, what that means is that once we've negotiated the price, we enter into an agreement. You pay a reservation fee and we sign a reservation form. And what that does is it locks the price in. And if a vendor, in the time it takes to get to contract, receives a better offer, he cannot accept that offer. So there's no gazumping. There's no, you know, you have a period of time, and that's normally 1% of the sales price or €6,000 reservation fee, whichever's the greatest, whichever's the highest. Developers will have their own amount. And yeah, you'll need to then do power of attorney with a lawyer. Emma will go into further detail on that, but yeah, a passport is pretty much what you need, and the capability of paying a deposit.
And just on that capability to pay the deposit, Danny, you can help with that, because it's still quite a lot of money at €6,000. You don't want to be paying a bad exchange rate on that. You can help with those payments, yeah. I assume.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I help a multitude of clients who are paying their deposit payments over, and as you say, it's definitely worth still coming to us for that rather than going to the bank. Even on a sum like €6,000, you know, there's savings to be made in terms of no fees with us. Again, you know, better exchange rates. So yeah, absolutely.
And just to establish that relationship before you make the big one, the big payment later on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'd like to think, you know, we'd have that relationship established even before the deposit payment, and then it's just a quick call. We'll have each other's direct lines, and you can just call me quickly to make that payment. 5-10 minutes on the phone to get it booked in, and then turned over in 24 hours. So yeah, definitely.
Most of my clients have opened the account before they come over. Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. Okay. What do you want people to be telling you before they get on a plane, Shirin? What's going to help you choose the right property for them?
I think in the same way I've got to be open and transparent and so on. I'd like my clients to trust me enough to be open and transparent with me. What is their real budget? How are they really paying for the property? So on and so forth. And just to share with me as much information about themselves as possible, because the more I know about you, the more I know what you like, don't like, and so on, and where to best place you. I can spend 10 minutes talking to a client and I start getting a feeling of where they would like to be. And yeah, just to be as open with me as possible and to trust me, really. The same way, you know, we have to work in that way. We're not here, we're here for the long term. We're not here to make anybody unhappy. I want you to be delighted with your purchase and you know, obviously go forward and write great reviews for us. But yeah, we have a lot of repeat business and that's what we want to keep up. So yeah, just to be open.
Excellent. Okay. Alvarez has asked, is there a way of selling sold property prices in Spain as you can in the UK?
We don't, unfortunately, have a fantastic system like you have in the UK. For example, I think it's Zoopla that has all the information. Yeah, we don't. We're starting to get that information together a bit better, but there isn't the same. I personally don't have access to that sort of information readily, and I don't know of a system that has that. The multi-listing system database that we have has started to collect information like that. So but no, we don't have that information. There is something called a notice simple, or the simple version of the title deeds. Again, Emma will explain a little bit better. Sometimes that information is on that document, but it's not readily available for us agents.
Excellent. Well, okay, thank you, Shirin. Well, you've queued her up. So Emma, let's turn to the lawyer side. So you're a paralegal at JLCA, and I believe JLCA work right across Spain.
Yeah, including the Canary and the Balearic Islands.
Okay. Is there anything particularly different in different parts of Spain with the buying process?
No, absolutely. Each of the autonomous regions have different tax application in purchasing a property. As Shirin mentioned, Andalusia has one of the lowest of the taxes applied. Different regions have a different percentage. For example, the Comunidad Valenciana is 10%. You'd be looking at the same up to a certain amount in the Catalonian region. Whereas if you go to the Canaries, it's 6.5%. So all of these vary depending on the region that you're looking at. But the other thing to take into account is the buying power that you have in each of those regions, because something that you purchase, for example, in Alicante, you would be a lot more expensive in perhaps Mallorca. So whenever you're looking at a property and an area, it's really important to take all of those different things into account when you're looking at what the total price is. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is to do your research and to actually go to these areas, because the most important thing is finding the place that's right for you, where you feel comfortable, or where it's going to fit with whatever you're purchasing a property for.
Okay, fantastic. So how long can the process take from making an offer and contacting you to getting the keys in your hand? And also, while telling us how long, could you also explain a little bit about the process as well?
Okay, well, in terms of time scale, it depends on how much preparation you've done and what the conditions are of the sale. I mean, you could, in principle, have a completion within a month, within 2 months. But obviously, if the vendor or the purchaser for some reason want an extension and they agree it, then it can take longer. It really is dependent on getting everything in place and what the preferences are of the parties involved. But it can be done reasonably quickly, as I say, within a month, month and a half, 2 months. Those are usually the most typical. I would describe the purchase process, if you're thinking in terms of resale, which we see more of than off plan. Obviously, you do have both as a sort of a 3-stage process. You can sort of apply it to off plan as well, as when you're looking, first of all, that you're going to be doing the reservation, as has been mentioned before. This is the point where you've found the property, you are very serious, you've talked about price, you've got a fixed price, you may have some conditions with regards to furniture, and that is the point that you put down a reservation deposit and sign just a simple agreement that that property is on hold for you for that amount. Now that reservation varies also. Across the whole of Spain, there's an average between 3,000 and 6,000 euros. It can be more for a higher value property. But that is the point that locks in the price and the initial conditions, and also moving you towards the next stage, which is the most important, the private purchase contract, or deposit contract as it's commonly known. Now, this contract is really important because it's binding to notary. So it's important to make sure that you've got all of the clauses that are needed for your protection at this point. Your lawyers, if they're already involved, will of course have started looking at the documentation. There's 2 registry offices, the main property registry and cadastral. We will be checking to make sure that it's in the seller's name, that there's no encumbrances against the property, that the 2 coincide, that you've got all the documentation that you need for the property, including checking with the local town hall that there's no infractions, so that you're buying with confidence. And anything that isn't provided right at the beginning, then we can write into the private purchase contract so that it is a condition to do so before you go to the final stage, which is signing at a public notary for the purchase. Now that can be done either with yourself in person, where we would attend with you, or we can do it by power of attorney, either arranged in Spain whilst you're here with us, or we can do when you go back home. There's facilities for us to be able to do that no matter where you're based.
Okay, great. We've heard quite a bit about power of attorney, actually. So perhaps you better explain what that means. I know some people are rather worried about it.
No, absolutely. I mean, in Spain, I mean, if I do a comparison more to the UK to Spain, as the majority of people I would imagine we're speaking to from the UK. In the UK, you can write a document, you can authorize people just to do something. That's not possible in Spain. In order for us to be able to liaise with things like banks, estate agents, developers, on your behalf, and notary offices, obviously, we do need a formal power of attorney, which is notarized and legalized if it's outside of Spain. It's a very simple process. We can make all of the arrangements for you, but then you will need to physically go in and sign. Now, these clauses are very specific to whatever you are needing to do. So if it's purchasing a property, it gives us all of the abilities that we need in order to do that on your behalf. The beauty of that is, if for any reason that you can't attend, even if you had intended to, then we can continue with the purchase so that everything still goes smoothly. And then as soon as you're ready, you'll come over with everything all set up and ready for you to move into your new property.
Okay. I have to say I rather like the idea of popping along to the notary's office and seeing my document signed and getting the keys in my hand. Can we still do that in this sort of internet day and age?
No, absolutely. There's no problem. It's all about timing and making the arrangements. So we have a mixture ourselves. I think the majority of the time that we will execute power of attorney just to have that peace of mind, but it also allows us to do other things for our clients, like get a bank account open for them. Our preference is always that you transfer your money, usually using a currency exchange firm, to your own account, and then the payments actually come from your own account. So you've got absolute transparency from day one, seeing where everything's going. But we can also set up all your direct debits then, they'll be swapped over into your name and debited from your own account. So as soon as you move in, everything's ready. But being here is absolutely fine. As I say, what it would be is you'd attend there, your lawyer will be there, you'll have a translator so that you understand everything that's happening.
And things like getting a notary, like I was saying earlier, it's we're unused to dealing with things like notaries. Do you handle that, or do we have to go and find a notary?
No, we'll handle all of that for you, make all of the arrangements. The idea is to, well, keyword that Shirin mentioned and I use a lot, it's transparency. but also understanding, because everything is such a different process to what people may be used to. We like to make sure that everybody understands every step of the way, but we'll make all of those arrangements. So it's just a case of you turning up at our office if we're going together, or we arrange to meet, and then we can step you through each part. But the actual arrangements themselves we can do, whether it's in the UK or in Spain.
Okay, fantastic. Now, we've heard that the estate agent fees are paid by the vendor, which is very nice. I'm guessing we don't have that luxury with lawyer fees. So what sort of fees would you say we should be looking at for the legal processes?
I don't like to sort of fix it, because everything depends on where you're doing what, on what you're buying. For example, if you're purchasing with for a cash purchase, or if you're going to be purchasing with a mortgage. Now, if you're purchasing with a mortgage, then there's 2 notary visits. And depending on the complexity of the property, we do try to work with fixed fees. So our preference is always have a chat with whoever it is that's looking to purchase a property. Then we can give them a breakdown of everything, from what the taxes are going to be, depending on whether it's resale or off plan, what your notary and registry fees approximately are going to be, what your legal fees will be. If you have a mortgage, what additional costs that you're going to have alongside with the mortgage lender. And then you've got an actual breakdown for yourself that's tailored to exactly what you're looking at.
Great. I don't know if people saw the session that we did earlier with Tim French from EMAC, who is a mortgage specialist in Spain, but do go and have a chat with him on his booth, because the deals are great. Mortgage deals in Spain are great, and it's relatively easy to get one. So do pop along and do that. Okay, but thinking about the buying process again. So if I'm in Spain, I'm on my viewing trip, I found the property that I love, I'm asked to sign something. Suddenly I'm in a bit of a panic. What do I do? Do I photograph the document and send it to you? Is that what you would suggest?
We have the reservation documents are usually pretty simple. If you've got a lot of clauses, and obviously we'll check anything that you want us to check beforehand. You can send it to us by email. You can WhatsApp me a photograph of the document. Whatever you've got, we're more than happy. The whole idea is for us to be holding your hand from the very beginning all the way through.
Okay. Now, what about surveys? In the UK, we would almost always have a survey done. Is that normal in Spain, and who would organise that?
It's a very good question, actually, because surveys as such aren't normal in Spain. It's not to say that you can't have one. Bear in mind the searches, as you would have in the UK, are different as well. Here in Spain, they're quite a lot more thoroughgoing, very much in depth into the registry information. So you get a lot of that information already from the work that we do as your legal representatives. And that's not to say, if you do want to have a survey, and this might be more to the point if you're buying an older property, for example, that you want to be sure, if you've seen something that you're not sure about, but then that would be a case of letting us know. We can source an architect that can do that, get a quote for obviously what fees they would charge to do the survey, and then depending on the point, we can actually write that into the private purchase contract, so that if there's something in there that you're really not happy with, that you can pull out and obviously get money back.
Okay, sure, thank you. Now we've had a question. I'm not sure who this is directed to. It might be to Danny. Whitley has asked, can we pay a deposit with a UK bank account?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, you'd send us the funds from your UK bank account. We would exchange them into euros and send them to, either the solicitor account or the seller's account. So I would say you can do that. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, do ask questions. That's exactly what we're here for. In the meantime, now Shirin mentioned the golden visa. Visas they're not part of the buying process at the moment, but of course they may well be linked up. So, do you deal in visas and that kind of thing as well, Emma?
Yep, absolutely. This is one of the points where it's really good to speak with people beforehand, so that they can build into their whole buying process what kind of visa is going to fit for them. There's lots of different types of residency. Obviously, golden visa is a particularly interesting one because it allows people to work in Spain should they wish to. But also, if they are less than 183 days in Spain, then they effectively get the freedom of the Schengen without becoming fiscally resident in Spain. That is sort of the main advantage that people look at the golden visa for. For that, you have to have a minimum of 500,000 euros investment in a property, and that needs to be without encumbrance. So you wouldn't be able to have a Spanish mortgage if you're purchasing. It needs to be 500,000 outright, and in the name of the person that's going to be the applicant. I want to draw your attention to that because, for example, if you have a couple that are purchasing 500,000 euros, then you would need one of them to actually be on the deed for the 500,000 euros. The spouse can then be attached to have all of the same rights. But if you bought it in joint names, it would be effectively like you each have 250,000, which isn't enough to reach the visa. Now, obviously, that's not the only type. The most common one is the non-lucrative visa, the NLV, as it's commonly known. That's for people looking to retire or take early retirement, live in Spain from a passive income, whether this be pensions, investments, savings. And then there are other types of visas as well. Everything is all dependent on what you're planning to do in Spain, but we do deal with all different types, and we can discuss them with people. But it's really important to have these conversations early on, because depending on the type of visa, the majority of them have to be applied for from the country of origin. And there is an amount of time that you're going to need to collect the correct documentation. And for example, the non-lucrative visa, it's important to understand that when you have your appointment in the consulate, in the Spanish consulate in the UK, you'll be handing in the paperwork that we'll have spent the last month or so collecting with you and making sure it's correct, but you will be handing your passport in at the same time. So that means that during the process of approval, you won't be able to leave the country of origin, you won't be able to leave the UK. So if you're planning to come over to Spain, or you've just sold your property, in order to do this, you do need to have in consideration what you're going to be doing during that time when you're waiting for your passport before you come over with us to do the second stage in Spain.
Right. Okay. A couple of things, a couple of questions. I'm thinking sort of a slightly further down the line. I go, this is to either Shirin or you, Emma, or both. If I'm looking to rent out the property, can you tell me in advance if there's going to be a problem, the kind of license I might need, whether I'm likely to get that license? So that question to Shirin first.
Yeah. So the property again, I'm talking about Andalusia. I'm sure it's the same, but for short-term lets, you have to have what's called a tourist license. Okay, and for that tourist license, there's a certain range of hoops you've got to jump through, and certain things you've got to have. Not a huge, but one of the things it has to have is a first occupation license, and that was brought in. Emma, is it 92 that was brought in, the first license, the first occupation license?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So if a property was built before that, there'll be other documents that will suffice, but ideally a property should have first occupation license, because when you put things on Airbnb and booking.com now, you have to have proof of a tourist license. Having said that, there are certain urbanizations, let's say if you're buying an apartment or a townhouse in an urbanization, where the community have decided as a whole and voted that they won't allow short-term lets in that development. So that's something really important to know as well. I've had situations where the community has decided not to allow short-term lets. However, they haven't notarized that fact, and therefore clients have got around it and have done short-term lets. But it's something that you need to know in advance, what is allowed by the community, not just by what documents is required.
Sure. So Emma, if you bought a property that doesn't have the right licenses, how easy is it to get them? Or do you have to get the right property from the start?
From our point of view, what you would have to do is think about where you're renting to start with. If you're buying in a residential block which has got people that are working and such, then obviously there's more likelihood that people are not going to be happy with short-term rentals. Whereas you're in a more tourist area where there's a lot of rentals already, then there's more likelihood that you'll be able to get a tourist license. Now there's two main bodies that we can check to see if there's any prohibitions against that. Firstly, as Shirin has already said, if there's specific community statutes which forbids you from being able to do a short-term rental, which obviously during the early stages, we can talk to the community to find out, is there something in the statutes which says no, you can't. And the other thing is the local town hall. They also govern whether that particular area is able to do this kind of rentals or not. So those two sources that we would look at. Now, in some cases, we found, the property might already have a tourist license. Now, when you've completed the property, then you apply for the license in your name. So that is the only time that you actually get the guarantee that you're going to have it, is once you've done that. But that's after you purchase the property. We've also had some properties which have they don't have a tourist license, just purely because the person that lived there before had it for a holiday home and they had no intention of ever renting it out that way. So it will be the first time it'll go through. So if you are planning to do that you are thinking of renting it on an investment basis, it's really important that you mention that to us right at the start, because then we can check with the local town hall and check with the local community to find out what the general bias is for that particular type of property.
Great. Okay. And well, we've had a question from Bill, which actually links into what I'm about to say next. Bill says, my son is looking to buy a property in Tenerife and has discovered that part is registered as a rustico. What's the significance of this and how does it impact a UK buyer?
The designation of the land, you have urban land, you have rustic land. You can purchase property on rustic land. I myself live in what they call Campo, and it's on rustic land. But you have to be very careful and make sure that everything is correctly registered. And this is part of the work that we would do, and all the licensing is still appropriate. What the impact you can have with some of these properties is there's a certain amount that can be built. And if you go in excess of, you can't go in excess of that. So if you're looking at rustic property, we would be checking everything to make sure everything is in order. But if you have the idea of purchasing a property and you're thinking about expanding it or doing different things, we would suggest you tell us that at the beginning as well, so we can check what you are able to do with that property in the future to make sure that you don't have any issues.
Okay, great. Now, with property tax, can you tell us about, is there any kind of regular property tax we'll be paying, and sort of, is it like council tax in the UK, or what would we be stung for tax-wise for our property? Perhaps that's for Shirin.
Yeah, when we advertise properties, we normally 9 times out of 10 have the information on what the IBI, as it's called here, EB, you'll hear it called as well sometimes, and that is the local council tax, I suppose. There will be a community fee to pay if you're buying within a community. That's always the case. And there's sometimes a separate payment for rubbish collection, but that's, I mean, in Benavis, doesn't matter what size property you have, it's always €18 a year for the rubbish collection. So that's neither here nor there. Each area differs as to how much EB you pay, but also Emma will probably explain. There's also a non-residence tax on a property as well if you're a non-resident, and that is worked out. As I say, Emma will explain how it's worked out, but there is that payment to be made. Again, it's not huge amounts, but it's something you have to know about.
Yes, so tell us how much we're paying extra if it's a second home, Emma.
Again, it's very difficult to say because it depends entirely on the property and the area. The non-residence tax is effectively like a wealth tax. It's not high. It's not a huge tax. You're not looking at thousands in general, unless you are a very big investment of property. So you're looking in hundreds rather than thousands, generally. But it's a case, again, if you know where you're buying and you're on a specific property, then we can give you a rough idea, and then with the specific property we can find out exactly what that's going to be. But it is very dependent, again, on the autonomous region, the region within that area, and how the local town hall deals with that as well.
So, for example, Benavi's EB costs are probably around a third of what they would be in Marbella. I mean, it's right next door. So.
Yeah, there's a massive difference between them. But if you're looking at IBI, it's generally, I would say, for the majority of the cases, it's a lot less than council tax.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So Danny, if I'm paying regular amounts backwards and forwards, whether it's rental income coming back or it's me paying regular bills over in Spain, I guess the same. I got the same problem with exchange rates moving all the time, so I'm never going to know how much I'm paying unless you have an answer for that.
Yeah, absolutely right, Chris. So you've got a couple of different options there. The one you're referring to is where you can actually again fix the exchange rate in for your regular payment, so that you then have a guaranteed amount in euros that you're going to be getting each month, rather than that amount fluctuating depending on where the exchange rate goes. Everyone's kind of different here. Some people might be happy just to have a standard sort of regular payment plan set up, where you just set up a standing order to us and we transfer out the euros each month, and that will vary depending on where the exchange rate goes. But yeah, a lot of my clients end up preferring the fixed rate option, whereby their payments are actually being sent at a fixed exchange rate, so that they're getting that fixed amount in euros each month. Can be a bit more preferable, that option, if you need to achieve a certain amount in order to pay off your bills and whatnot, whereby you can't take the risk that a currency rate will then mean you can't pay off your bills. A drop in the currency rate could then mean you can't pay off your bills. So yeah, the fixed rate option is preferable in those situations.
Great. We've only got a couple of minutes left, so can I just ask, you Shirin first, any sort of big picture, what makes it a successful purchase in Spain, and also just sort of a successful new start, a new life, new retirement in Spain?
Do you mean what? Sorry, I don't understand the question quite. The lifestyle or the purchase? What makes a purchase?
Well, both. I mean, what you presumably seen people make a successful, fantastic purchase, just the property they like, and have made a wonderful life in Spain, and some people who just come back again after a couple of years or a few months. What's the difference? What makes a successful move to Spain?
I think just being really open and open to the thing we have here is a real mixture of nationalities here. So it's not that you're going to be thrown into a Spanish-only speaking town unless that's what you want, which in that case we'll find the property for you. I think speaking a little bit of the language is really helpful, but it's not necessarily, lots of people don't speak the language here and have lived here for years. I just think being open to different nationalities, a different way of life, and more outdoor life, and the friendliness is something that people aren't always used to either. So you have to get used to people just talking to you, and yeah, just being as open as possible, really, to the lifestyle. It is very different. If you're looking to make millions doing the same job as you would do in the UK, I think in general cost of living is way less, but also income from certain professions is not as high as the UK. So that's the only thing I would say. But if you're retiring out here, then your buck goes a lot further. Yeah. Okay,
fantastic. That is all we've got time for. Just to point out that it wasn't Emma was shy. There was a problem with the tech, which is probably our fault. So apologies to Emma for not being able to see her. However, you can see her on lots of other webinars that we've done. Just look at our on-demand pages at Yoh Overseas Home. And do obviously also go and see Emma and Shirin and Danny on their stand, on their booths, their virtual booths at the show. I know they're a bit funny to work out first, but you'll soon get used to it. I promise you can get your individual questions answered there. A reminder that at 2 p.m. we'll be talking to an IFA, specially licensed to work in Spain. Not all IFAs do, so you might want to tune in to that. At 12:15, my colleague Greta will be running through your international healthcare options. So that's also really interesting for people who are retiring to Spain. I'm not sure if it's a requirement or not at the moment, but Emma will be able to answer that at her stand. And at 1:15, we'll be talking about foreign exchange, which can be nerve-wracking when it's the proceeds of your house being sent to Spain. So we can set your allay any fears about that. So thank you to all our panelists, Shirin, Danny, and Emma, and good luck with your property purchase. Thank you very much.